All right, what is up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and today we're going to talk about this little thing called aphantasia. I don't know that I've ever heard the term before until now, but I have had discussions about this before with other artists, and it's definitely interesting. What do you see in your mind when you dream, when you talk, like just in everyday life? Do you imagine actual visuals? Or do you imagine words? It's a very interesting topic. But before I get into that, first I wanted to mention, actually, let me make sure I'm not, all right. I wanted to mention that I put out a video yesterday and I'm really excited about it. It's the 1 hour comic challenge. And a lot of you guys have seen it and commented, and some people have shared it and stuff. So excuse me, I really thank you guys for doing that. That's so awesome. It's really helpful. You don't know how helpful it is when you comment, like, and share and stuff like that. It's super helpful. It's still within the 24-hour period. So if you'd like to do that now, that'd be really awesome. Go ahead and check that out, watch it, comment, all that stuff, because I really want this to get some good traction, and it already is. But not only that, I just think it was a fun video to make. Like, it's probably the best video I've made so far. And you could see if I was able to complete the 1 hour comic challenge that I created. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you thought about that, and I'm curious to hear more about that. And I want to see some other people try it too. I think that would be really cool. So I have a Facebook Messenger group where I kind of have the people who may potentially come on this show, some of them who do, and you know, I put out the link, and actually, I haven't even put out the link today. I totally forgot because I got excited about this topic, but I'm gonna put that link out real quick. I'll just put it in the let's see, I'll put it in the messenger. But I asked them, what would be a good topic to talk about tomorrow. It's cool. Like, I usually just kind of come up with them, but I thought it would be cool to ask them. So sorry, I'm just I hate when computers do weird things. To join. All right, so that's in there. So anyways, and I'll put that link actually in the chat right now. If anybody else wants to talk about aphantasia, I only have a certain amount of time. I have to get to work in about 20 to 30 minutes. But here's the link. But it's just really interesting. Like, what do you visualize? Yeah. So I just wanted to first of all shout out James, my buddy James, in the messenger, who's also comes in to the live chats sometimes, because he's the one who kind of really got this discussion going, and it was really interesting. We were having a discussion behind the scenes. But my question to you is what do you how do you visualize in your head? And there's a video of where this lady, what's her name? Amy Right Meow, is that what it is? Let's see, I have it kind of up. Yeah, Amy Right Meow. She did an animated video. It's her last video, but I put a link in the description, also for my video, but also for this video that I'm talking about right now. She did this video about aphantasia, and she's an artist. She's an animator, and her animation is beautiful. And she's talking about this, and it's just interesting because what she found was that most artists she asked could visualize pretty well in their head, and at a scale of 1 to 10, like the question is like how clearly do you see in your mind's eye? Oops, spilling coffee now. This is just a mess. How clearly do you see in your mind's eye the the things you're drawing, or just any kind of imagery. And again, I've had these discussions before in hangouts and stuff. I remember my buddy Adam Lore has talked about this a lot with me, and just really interesting stuff. And I was amazed that that some people, excuse me, that some people don't see in their head what they're drawing, or that just, even if they're not artists, that they just don't see things in their head. And on that scale, I'm probably like a 7 or an 8. I don't see things super vividly or clearly, but I do see in my head for the most part. I think visually. I don't think in words, and if I do think in words, it's almost like I see like 3D versions of the words that are colored. There's kind of colors to them too as well, and that was kind of an interesting thing too. That through this discussion, I kind of talked about, or thought about, is that I've always kind of attributed certain colors to certain numbers and words and stuff like that. Um, And what's up, Sam? Thanks for dropping in. You said it's a interesting subject to start with. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while I was sleeping, these guys in the messenger, these guys and gals, were um, discussing this, and I woke up to like a very long, messenger thing. Like they kind of had their own live stream via chat about it. But it's just really interesting how it affects, because the thing is you would think as an artist, if you can't visualize things in your head, if you have aphantasia, that would be a disadvantage. But what's interesting is it like maybe people who do visualize more clearly tend to be artists. I don't know, or people who are artists tend to be those kind of people. I don't know. Maybe that's part of what talent is. Um, but it's interesting because people who don't see anything in their head, like the Amy Wright Meow, her video, um, she said that's how she is, and she said it's pretty much entirely blank. And some people see visuals, but they're really foggy, and that's kind of how mine is. But I think I see it pretty clearly, and you can test this by just like close your eyes, think about any object. In the video, she said think about an apple. Can you change the color of it? What kind of, does it have like a leaf on it? Does it have a bite out of it? Can you turn it around in your head? Um, what kind of apple is it? Or do you just not, you're not able to visualize that? You think more in words actually, and you just can't. And apparently there's ways to cure this. I don't, or that you can kind of train yourself to have even clearer visuals in your head, which is really interesting. But the thing that I think is especially interesting is the fact that some people have kind of have this condition, but then they're still artists, and they actually, like, looking even at the animated video that this girl made, um, I mean, the art is beautiful. I love it, and she can cartoon better than I can, I think, and so it's like it reminds me of when I was young in high school. There was obviously the different subjects, and I was always better at like English and you know basically English reading type classes. Art, obviously, certain classes I was okay at, but the one class that I was never great at was math. And but the thing is I got my best grades in math because I couldn't understand it very well. I had to work harder to figure it out and understand it. And so I got better grades in math, because the other classes I didn't work as hard because it was kind of easy to me. Um, and I just didn't really focus on learning as much as you should as a student. Um, just in general, like I wasn't into school. I just did it because I had to, which I think a lot of people are like that. But some people, really get into it, and I don't know. Anyways, the point is I had to work harder at math, so I was better at math. As far as tests go, at least. I mean, now I feel like I'd be more interested, and I'd actually be maybe better at it. But at that point, I didn't understand why it was important at all. So anyway, so if you have a deficiency, like you can't visualize very well, especially as an artist, maybe that makes for better art in some ways because you have to focus on the principles and fundamentals of art more, um, and you have to really understand them and take the time to really understand them so that you can translate that over to your art. Um, Also, another thing is there's this concept of drawing what you see. So this is like a fundamental of art. Like a good way to get good at drawing realistically is to have the object in front of you and make sure you're drawing what you see, not what you think you see. So, a problem in art is that sometimes we draw symbols. So if you ask anybody in the world to draw a house, a lot of times they're going to come up with a very similar image. The triangle kind of angle on top with the chimney, and then like two windows and a door and a square. Like this whole like house or whatever. But that can actually mess you up as an artist because it's easy to like draw that symbol, but what a house really looks like is different than that symbol, or like you might draw a face and it might be closer to a smiley face than, what actually represents a person. So, you know, I don't know. I think this visualization thing, this aphantasia thing, plays a part in it. So I wonder if it changes what kind of artist you are. Maybe you rely more on reference and your stuff is way more realistic, or maybe because you're not able to see in your mind and draw from seeing in your mind as clearly. Maybe you're better at cartooning. You're better at translating these things into, um, you know, cartoony images. And it's interesting because one of my friends, I don't want to like mention specific people, because they may or may not want this to be aired. But one of my friends is pretty much has this aphantasia, and I love her cartooning style, and I wish I could draw cartoons like that. Like I tend to get stuck on the details of things. Like I try to draw a cartoon, and I'm okay at drawing a cartoony or whatever. That's I can do it, but um, sometimes I wonder if I struggle more with it because I see details in my mind and I can't help but draw them. I mean, I don't see super clearly, I see like probably on a scale from 1 to 10, I probably see somewhere around a 7 or 8. It is kind of foggy to me, but if I sit there and imagine an apple, I can see it. I can see details, and I can rotate it. Some people can see it like visual, like clear, like right as clear as it is right in front of you. I've heard of people dreaming and having these very lucid dreams. A lot of times people talk about that, and it's real. And I don't have that. I don't even remember my dreams most of the time. And when I do remember them, they're again this kind of fuzzy visualization that's pretty clear, but it's not like some people describe. Um, so yeah, I don't know. There's so much to this, so many implications, so many questions that kind of come up. I'm curious what you guys think. Do you have this kind of struggle to visualize things? How do you like if you're even if you're not an artist, um, it's interesting. How do you, and if you are an artist, how do you compensate for not being able to see in your mind things? And you know, I don't know. I wonder. There's just so much to it, really. Let me see what the comments are saying. Sam says, "In my mind, I see very vividly, very animated. My wife says she does not see things clearly. My daughter says the images in her mind are not animated." Interesting. Yeah. Excuse me. That's interesting too. Like animated, like do they move? Because I feel like the apple in my head is more static. Like I can turn it around, but it's not like animated. It's like, okay, now let me think of it from the bottom. Okay, now thinking of it from the bottom. Now let me think of it from the top. Okay, like I'm not exactly moving it around in my mind, um, but I am. It's like a like it's like I have to see one image at a time. Like I'm seeing the frames of a video, but I have to click over to each one, you know. It doesn't, it's not fluid. Dave Hingley says, here's a question for people to try to draw a quick cartoon of an open sandwich. There's some bread, some lettuce, and a slice of cheese. When you draw the sandwich, did you cut the sandwich in half diagonally? Did you put holes in the slice of cheese? Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, it's interesting because we all have, and it's funny because Creed brought something up too. That's a similar question in the messenger chat, and he was talking about like this idea of like we all see differently, like as far as like colors and stuff goes, like you know how if you're an artist, you've run into this where you can create an image on the computer and there's certain colors or whatever, and then you can go to print it, and there's all kinds of specifications, but when you go to print it, the colors will look different sometimes you can get them. I mean, if you're good at this whole print color thing, um, you can get the colors to be more accurate to what you intended. um, but you know the thing is it's kind of the same with how we see things. Like some people are colorblind, some people um just I think we all probably see colors differently, but we all think that everybody sees colors the same way we do, like until we find out that we don't, but I think a lot of us don't realize, or at some point in our life did not realize, that we don't necessarily see things, colors the same. And so like it really has to do with all visuals. I'm finding out, and it's just really interesting. And it's also like you see this, like there's this disconnect in communication, and we're kind of at the mercy of our natures. It's kind of crazy. Like we talk about like having evidence and science and stuff like that, which is obviously super helpful and awesome. Um, but if we're all like seeing things differently, sometimes the evidence would appear to us differently to a certain extent. Obviously, a fact is a fact. There are certain things you can observe, but observation is a part of science. So, like, if we're all observing things at wildly different ways, how much are those things that we observe, how concrete are they, as far as like how we understand. But even just like communication, like I could say one thing to you and you would think maybe I'm saying it in an angry way, but I'm actually saying it in a happy, excited way. Or you know even like sometimes when I smile, I think I'm smiling, but then I look in the mirror and it doesn't look like I'm smiling. So um, people kind of perceive me in a different way than I feel like I'm putting myself out there. So there's always these communication gaps, and so like it's interesting that it really with all of our senses it comes into that difficulty as well, and and how we visualize things and how we visualize things as artists. It's super interesting when you really get into it. Let's see what else the chat's saying. Sam says, I remember hearing that Apple example you used back in the 90s from a college art professor. Oh, interesting. Yeah, see, I never got too deep into this until, the last few years is the first only time I've really heard of some of this stuff. But I've always thought about the fact that I see like numbers and letters in different colors, like they all have almost like their assigned color. But it's kind of ambiguous because sometimes I feel like it's a different color than it is. But like a 7 to me is like yellow, and like a 4 is red to me. A 2 is blue. I don't know why. Like that's just like their assigned color. But sometimes it's different, and I don't think it actually affects me too much in my art, because when I'm making art, I was just doing um, kind of the channel art for my YouTube channel um, the other day, and I was playing around with words and letters. And anytime you're doing any kind of promotional stuff, um, you're working with words and stuff, and you have to choose what colors these things are. And and it's definitely something you think about, and you want to get the right colors, and you want to get the right fonts and all that stuff, that really just look cool, look good, whatever your goal is. Um, and you would think that the fact that I see certain words and letters and numbers as different colors um, would maybe affect those decisions, but I don't think they actually do. So that's an interesting thing too. So the way you visualize maybe doesn't even dictate the way you put out your art. But I couldn't imagine like visualizing, like thinking not in images, because I that's how I think. I don't think in words. Like if I hear a conversation, I see all the images of what the person's talking about. I don't think words. If I have to like almost like read the words in my mind, like that would mess me up. Like it would take too long. It's like watching a movie and having the subtitles on. Like, and actually that's an interesting thing too, because when you watch a movie, like we actually watch all of our shows with subtitles. Usually, because especially if it's like something that's like from another, with people with like heavy accents and stuff like that, because sometimes it's hard to understand what they're saying. But I think I've gotten over this now. Sometimes it's still a problem, but I used to not like to do that though, because um, the words would distract me, and I'd find myself reading the words instead of looking at the visuals. And that's why I don't understand why people prefer watching anime um, in the actual language with the subtitles instead of the dubs. I always prefer the dubs because anime is such a visual thing. Like you want to see all the visuals, but I can't see the visuals because I'm reading the whole time. So that actually distracts me. So that's what I'm saying. Like I'm glad I would hate to have to think only in words, because I don't want to be reading. I want like it's just a quicker form of communication to me is you know when you say, oh, my friend got hit by a car, I see that in my mind. I see an image of that, you know, that's just, it's just quick. It's just a flash. It's an image. But if I had to kind of read it out, it takes time to like read it out. Or if I couldn't imagine it, I feel like maybe it would take longer to process. I don't know. But there's a difference too, because we understand things audibly as well. And I wonder if it depends, like all this has to do with if you're a visual learner, an auditory learner. I mean, I learn all different ways, And I learn by audio like really well, but I think it's also because I see these things in my mind. So it's just so crazy and interesting because you don't think about this stuff too all the time, or I don't, you know. Um, Dave says that in the example, his apple is red. Yeah, I think mine is too. But then I think of a green apple because I like green apples, maybe like Granny Smith. So I think of both, I guess. The apple is red initially, I guess, because that's the typical image, but can change the color, style, fade in and out, turn it around, slice it, etc. That's what Sam says. Interesting. Sam T. um, but this can be frustrating because I cannot draw as good as the image in my mind. See, that's another thing that was brought up. It's like it's almost a detriment because if you can see super clearly, like one of the people in the chat was saying this as well. If you can see super clearly, like an image, like you're like, I want to draw this cool drawing of like, you know, Thor or something, and you have this amazing image in your head, and then you can't replicate that. It is frustrating. I have that same problem too, but I don't know, and it's always better if I have an image in my head. Like it's way quicker. Like I love when I have an image of what I want to draw in my head, and sometimes I don't, and I have to sit there and work it out. And that's when it can be frustrating because I have to make decisions. And once I have to make decisions creatively, that's what can sometimes stop me. Um, so if I have an image already in my head, I could just draw what I have in my head. But again, like Dave, Sam was saying, sometimes you can't draw as good as what's in your head, and that's frustrating, and that can affect your art as well. So that's interesting. Um, Dave says, yeah, but I think that some of this is I can't read and inzate shorthand. I don't know, which we can use for cartooning. I'm curious how universal these sort of things are. I think I might try a 1 hour comic about this, Marsh. Yeah, Dave. Bringing it back around to the 1 hour comic challenge. Thanks, man. And actually, that's funny that you do that now at this point because it is about that time. But yeah, I don't know. It's just really interesting. I definitely please, like, guys, let me know in the comments what you think about this. I think it's absolutely interesting. It's a topic we could talk about again, and I kind of really wish there was somebody who came on the Hangouts today because it's a little bit easier to talk about these things when you have somebody to bounce them off. But luckily, you guys in the chat helped me out with that, so thank you. And yeah, check out the video again that I did yesterday because I just think that it's really cool and I want more people to see it. But also check out the video of Amy Wright Meow, and when I'm done with this, I'm gonna put that video in the actual end cards of her thing, and I'm gonna put both videos in the end cards. So check those out. And if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe on the video. That's super helpful. And yeah, it's a really interesting discussion, and I'd love to kind of keep this discussion going on. We can probably do another live stream sometime about it because there's just so much to it. But anyways, hopefully you guys got something from this. Hopefully this was interesting. I really appreciate you guys watching on the replay, watching during the live stream, and I hope you guys have an awesome Friday. Again, I've said this before, but my buddy Foy Storm has an awesome live stream at 3 p.m. Eastern time every Friday. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be checking it out, and you guys should check it out too. But yeah, I hope you have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and I don't know if I'll have videos this weekend or not, but we'll see. But I'm going to continue doing videos about mini comics for a little while too, so look forward to that next Thursday. And other than that, you guys rock. I really appreciate you guys hanging out again, and I will talk to you on the next live stream on the next Early Bird Artcast. Peace out.